Right, again, a very warm welcome. Good morning to you all. My name is Roosmarie Buiten. I'm here today as the facilitator of the Sustainable Small Grants Program webinar. We're very pleased to see you all from different geographies. I'm here today together with Melissa Johnson of the IUCN, and I will start sharing my screen now. For us to also see the agenda and the rest of the webinar slides. So, yeah, the Sustainable Small Grants Program is part of the Closing the Caribbean Plastic Tap, and Melissa Johnson is the regional coordinator of that program, and she'll tell you all about that program in a bit. As you might have seen in some of the introductions, the Sustainable Small Grants Program is targeting 5 states in the Caribbean. That's Antigua and Barbuda, Grenada, St. Lucia, St. Kitts and Nevis, and then St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I'm sorry, now my buttons are not working. And for today, this will be our agenda. So Melissa will then welcome you in a little bit later and introduce you the Caribbean, Close the Caribbean Plastic Tap program actually. Then I will dive into the Sustainable Small Grants Program that also includes the grant structure and the application process. Then there's practical guidance for applicants, and then we'd like to end the webinar with a more interactive poll where you can just share, your questions that you might have. And yeah, that will also help us to finalize the terms of reference for the call for proposal. You might have been wondering about if it's already available and when it will come live. Yeah, this webinar will feed that last bit before it is finalized. Yeah, before we go into the content of the webinar, I would like to ask you all to mute your cameras, or sorry, your microphones, and to use the chat box for any questions that you might have. And it would also be quite helpful for us if you could, sorry, rename yourself so it's your ID is clear from when you do share questions or remarks. And lastly, I'd like to share that the webinar is being recorded. So, at the end, the recordings can be shared and also the slides can be shared. Let's see if there's anyone else joining before we continue. All right, then I would like to give the floor to you, Melissa.
Thank you. So before you can go back to the first slide before you show it so I can do my welcome. So, all right, good morning, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today for this webinar introducing the Sustainable Small Grants Program. This is the second webinar that we are having on this said program under the Closing the Caribbean Plastic Tap initiative. We are pleased to welcome the participants from the 5 participating islands, Antigua and Barbuda, Grenada, St. Lucia, St. Kitts and Nevis, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. On the onset, I would like to acknowledge and thank our donor, the government of Italy, to the Italian Agency for Development Cooperation, for their generous support, which has made this program and today's engagement possible. We also appreciate the continued partnership of IUCN in advancing practical, inclusive solutions to plastic waste challenges across the Caribbean. The Sustainable Small Grants Program is designed to support effective, inclusive, and scalable solution that reduces plastic waste leakage while strengthening livelihoods and advancing the circular economy. In particular, it places strong emphasis on micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, especially women and youth-led initiatives, recognizing their critical role in driving local innovation and sustainable change. Today's session will walk us through the program objectives, eligibility criteria, grant structure, and application process. And we also provide practical guidance to support the development of strong proposal. We look forward to hearing from you so that we can better understand your needs and tailor for future support accordingly. So I will jump right into my presentation, Rosemary. So before we got to the plastic tap project, we had the plastic waste-free islands project. This was a 4-year initiative that spanned 2019 to 2023. It covered 6 islands in the Caribbean and the Pacific. Those Caribbean islands were Antigua and Barbuda, St. Lucia, and Grenada. It covered 3 sectors: tourism, fisheries, and waste management. It looked at those 3 sectors. The general objective of the plastic-free, waste-free islands was to demonstrate effective and quantifiable solutions for plastic waste generation and leakage from small island developments, and based on what came out of the PWFI, Plastic Tap was born. Rosemary? The methodology used, and this is the methodology used in the PWFI. Like I said, the 3 sectors that were analyzed were tourism, fisheries, and waste management. Again, the analysis used quantifying and qualifying methodologies. We looked up the type of plastics, whether recyclable or non-recyclable, and solutions that came out of it. Rosemary, if you go to the next slide, then I can give more information. So the outcome deliverables of the PWFI were 4. To improve knowledge of waste generation among target islands. As I said, with 3 national quantification reports were generated and 1 regional report came out of the PWFI initiative. An increase outcome 2 was to increase policy effectiveness to reduce plastic waste generation and leakage. 3 national assessments on plastic waste management policies were done. 3 national economic sector analysis on the impacts of plastic waste pollution on marine ecosystems were generated. Outcome 3 was plastic waste reduction measures adopted by the tourism, fisheries, and waste management sectors through alternative value chain development. 9 concept solution for recyclable plastics and alternative value chain were conceptualized. 5 business plans, 3 prototypes. 4 pilots for 3 solutions, 4 case studies, and the Deplastifies tool came out of the PWFI. And then the 4th outcome was the PWFI blueprint endorsed by regional SIDS body. And this was a guide to address and reduce plastic waste leakage in any island around the world. Next slide, Rosemary. This then leads us into the closing the Caribbean Plastic Tap. This one is a 3-year initiative from 2023 to 2026. This covers 5 islands in the Eastern Caribbean. There are 3 from the PWFI, Antigua, Barbuda, Grenada, St. Lucia, and then 2 additional islands were included, which were St. Vincent and the Grenadines and St. Kitts and Nevis. Again, it looks at 3 sectors: tourism, fisheries, and waste management. The overarching goal of the Plastic Tap project is to implement effective and socially inclusive solutions to advance circular economy and address plastic waste leakage in target small island development states. Next slide. The Plastic Tap has 4 outcomes, and I'll just run through them quickly. Outcome 1 is to identify solutions for recyclable polyamers in project countries that is being implemented in. Outcome 1.1 is to advance the circular economy agenda for recyclable polyamers in all project countries. 1.2 is to undertake the business and economic case assessment for St. Kitts and Nevis and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Develop new job opportunities at local community level related to plastic waste management. And 1.4 is to key stakeholders from government, private sector, civil society from St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Vincent demonstrate demands responsive solutions to plastic waste. Next slide. Outcome 2 looks at non-recyclable polyamide solution implemented for project countries. And 2.1 is an application of the most suitable technology tool for non-plastic polyamers in all the project countries, and sensitization and capacity building on non-recyclable polyamers. Outcome 3 looks at advancing policy and legislative actions for effective management of plastics and plastic waste at national and regional levels. So in outcome 1, we look at implement at least one legislative policy recommendation presented under the PWFI program. And nope, sorry, go back, Rosemary. I'm not done. And then regional actions taken on the PWFI blueprint towards the zero waste strategy. Outcome, next slide, please. Outcome 4 looks at improved knowledge of plastic footprint among target islands. 4.1 is to improve knowledge and awareness on plastic and plastic waste challenges in the Caribbean SEDS, increase communications among key sectors on plastic and plastic waste in target countries, and complete capacity building activities for women, youths, and community groups on plastic management. Sorry. Go ahead. So I'll jump right into the objectives. So the objectives of today's webinar is to 1, introduce a sustainable small grants program, clarify the eligibility and grant structure, explain the application and reporting requirements, highlight priority focused areas, build capacity for successful proposals, and 6, engage with the participants, which are you persons online, and understanding your learning needs and addressing questions. And addressing any questions you may have. Over to you, Rosemary. Thank you.
Right. Thanks so much, Melissa, for that nice introduction on the background of the grant program. So that brings us ahead today to the webinar and the grant objectives. Yeah, there are 3, and the first really is to support effective, inclusive, and scalable solutions to reduce plastic waste leakage. To build a circular economy by fostering financially viable initiatives that prevent plastic waste and encourage recycling. And I'll tell you more about those 2 elements, preventing and waste management, in a bit. And then the third one is to empower local communities with a focus on women, youth, and micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises to enhance the economic opportunities. Okay, in terms of eligibility of the grantees, so who are we prioritizing? That is really focused on, again, the micro, small, and the medium-sized enterprises. And then the priority is given to community-based and women and youth-led MSMEs. But we also welcome applications from CBOs, NGOs, cooperatives, or associations, schools, informal groups with a demonstrated community engagement. And as we already mentioned, but it's good to reiterate, it's restricted to the 5 AICS countries: Antigua and Barbuda, Grenada, St. Lucia, St. Kitts and Nevis, and then Vincent and the Grenadines. So if you look at what, the definition of MSMEs, who are we then really targeting? So it's basically anything between 1 and 250 employees. It could be a very small scale and to slightly larger companies. We thought it would be nice to give you, some examples of like who do we then envision and to respond. It's not restrictive, this table at all, but just to give some examples. So it could be, for example, when you look at producers and converters, could be small plastic packaging retailers or suppliers of fishing nets, or those that are producing alternative materials, or producers of fish packaging or cooling materials. Could be street vendors, hotels or restaurants, food and beverage brands, and tourism chains, and so on. Then in terms of the focus areas, it's on 2 elements. So it's on prevention, plastic waste prevention, and inclusion. Then that means we're looking for upstream and midstream type of solutions. And so those are interventions that are emphasizing reuse, reduction, and circularity. We're looking for scalable actions that prevent waste, and that also increase the recyclability and the actual recycling rates of plastics. Then the priority sectors are waste management, fishery, and tourism, but also extended to retail, HoReCa, and the public sector. And the latter then relates more to green procurement and how plastic waste management and prevention measures fit in that strategy. So what do we mean with upstream and midstream solutions? Again, these are exemplary actions, but the upstream solutions are those that prevent plastic waste before it is created. So examples could be a refill station for household and personal care products, or produce and distribute locally made reusable shopping bags or food containers, or maybe to develop eco-friendly packaging solutions. Or what we've also done under the Plastic Waste-Free Islands project is to pilot reusable food container programs with food vendors and or restaurants. Then looking at the midstream solutions, the focus is more on keeping the plastics in use for as long as possible. But here also the more like recycling oriented activities could fit in, where we've seen also in the Plastic Waste-Free Island project, there have been a number of bottle-to-bottle recycling initiatives, and waste-to-product initiatives as well. So, for example, produce recycled plastics and produce furniture or other types of products that are relevant for your context. Then key definitions with reduce, we mean making packaging materials smaller or lighter, or using alternative packaging materials. With reuse, it's referring to packaging that's designed to be used multiple times in a system for reuse. That bit is also important. So we don't mean reuse of recycled material in this context, which is quite often being confused. Then refill is a system where packaging is designed to be refilled with the same product, either at home or a designated location. And then what do we really mean with recyclable plastics? We've looked into different design for recycling guidelines that are relevant also for your context. So it should be designed for recycling, should be made from polymers that can be technically processed into new products, using existing and or locally adaptable infrastructure. So real like novel infrastructure development is out of scope. And what's important is that there is a viable end market for your recycled material, either on island or in a regional context. Example projects, we've seen them from the Plastic Waste-Free Islands project. Let's see if the video works. Seems to be going very slow. Okay, let's not try the video and go back to the presentation. But yeah, I already referred to it, bottle-to-bottle recycling. So collecting PET bottles and sorting them and processing or pre-processing them for export overseas, for example. Then reusable PET water bottles from a bottling company. So that is kind of a larger scale investment, but it could be very interesting on an island because of the closed environment. So you wouldn't be importing single-use PET bottles, but working with reusable glass or PET bottles. It could be for water or for carbonated drinks. Of course, reusable water bottles at hotel could be an option. Net-to-net recycling for the fishery sector. Again, reusable fish packaging could be an option. Reusable food containers have been trialed on St. Lucia with restaurants over there. But we also more increasingly see the use of food, but also non-food dispensing systems in HoReCa, hotels and so on, replacing the miniatures that you often see. And again, the waste to product, but also circular B2B logistics. So that's more like a reusable transport packaging solution that could be in scope. All right, that was it on more like the the scope and what kind of ideas you could think of and who's eligible. So then let's look at. I'm sorry, Melissa, I see you have your hand up.
Hi, I was very sorry. I didn't want to interrupt, but I just wanted to let everybody on the call and ask everybody if they could put in the chat your name, your country you're representing, and the organization with your contact email address, because we want to build a list where we can send any information on the grants, especially when it's launching and everything, and you can be a part of our email listing. So if you can just include your name, country you're representing, organization, and an email address, we'd really appreciate that. Sorry, Rosemary, back over to you.
So yeah, the grant size. So in total, the grant envelope is $400,000 US. And that's equally distributed across the 5 islands. So those per islands, the grant size could be between 30 and 80K. And it will be a 2-staged application process. So first a concept note, and if that's successful, then successful tenors are invited for full proposal. And the maximum duration of the activities is up to 12 months. And then there's 2 tracks. So there is track A and track B. And then track A focuses more on technical innovation and plastic waste prevention, whereas track 2 focuses more on community inclusion and livelihoods. And there's a list of clear criteria that can be shared later as well. But track A is more focusing on the high impact scaling solutions that reduce plastic use and improve recycling systems. And track B focuses more on the inclusiveness and community-led initiatives, and we want to make sure that both have space in this grant program. Eligibility criteria include that you need to be legally registered, have a status in one of the participating countries. The project must align with the grant objectives and the focus areas. The budget should be appropriate for proposed activities and within the grant limits. You should also demonstrate relevant experience and leadership diversity. Again, we're prioritizing women and youth-led initiatives, so we're giving bonus points also for that. Strong monitoring, evaluation, and reporting capabilities and commitment to inclusivity is key. Then on the right, you see the evaluation scoring approach that we'll be using. And especially the ones that are highlighted in red show basically the emphasis of the scoring on track A, which is then again more about the technical innovation and the actual plastic leakage reduction. And then track B on the community inclusion and livelihoods. These will be shared also with you later, so you can have a look at them in more detail afterwards. Let's see, why is it not clicking? In terms of the key performance indicators, these are really the numbers that show if your project is making an impact. These should be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely, SMART, as they say. And the program has identified 7 key performance indicators under each of the 3 objectives that I shared before. So the first key performance indicator really looks at the volume of plastic waste diverted as a result of the funded projects. The second one looks at the scalability basically of the solution. Then under objective 2, that aims to build a circular economy by fostering viable initiatives. The KPI looks at whether it's a circular economy business model or initiative that is either being established or expanded. looks at the number of new or improved products that are made from recycled plastics. And then under objective 3, which is more about local empowerment, we're looking at the number of women, youth, and MSMEs directly benefiting from the grant, the percentage of increase in income or employment opportunities of the targeted beneficiaries, and then the number of capacity building workshops or activities basically, and the participants reached. It is important to at least make sure that you're clear on how your project meets KPI 1, which is about the volume of plastic waste averted, because eventually that's the overarching goal of the program. Then in terms of reporting requirements, it's reasonably light. Every 6 months. It's only a 12-month project, so that's 2 progress reports and 1 final report, and there might be some check-in moments by email. There will be a financial report requested with each submission, and then in terms of the installment policy, there will be 2 or 3 installments. Those are then contingent on the reporting. Those details will be confirmed in the actual request for proposals. That will come out later. And then, we wanted to share some practical guidance for you, for those of you that are interested to apply. So some tips for strong proposals, and to clearly outline the objectives, the activities, the outcomes, and the sustainability of the project, and that it aligns with the grant objectives. That the focus is on plastic waste prevention, circular solutions, and community empowerment. You need to show measurable impact linked to the program KPIs. It needs to be within the sectors that have been identified for the grant. So those are, again, tourism, fisheries, waste management, retail, HoReCa, and public sector. Clearly, you need to meet the eligibility criteria, and all the forms need to be completed. And there needs, the potential for replication or scale up will be looked at. And last but not least, the women and youth-led initiatives score higher. Okay, then practically the application steps and deadlines. Well, first, of course, you review the request for proposal when it comes out. Below, you'll also see the link to the IUCN website where these tenders are usually published. Then you prepare your proposal and providing using the provided templates. Those will be part of the templates also of the RFP package. Then you compile supporting documents, the proof of legal status, organizational profile, leadership composition and financials, and so on. Then you submit the application via email. In the RFP, the procurement email address will be provided. And then you receive confirmation about, first, again, it will be 2-stage approach. So first, a concept note, you'll receive a confirmation about whether it's successful or not before you can proceed to the full proposal stage. The call for proposal opens at the end of February. So we don't have the exact date yet, but it will be shared with you soon. And then the projects need to be completed, all funded projects, by the 1st of August of next year. So that's the timeline. And then we would like to end the session with an interactive Q&A. So we have 2 questions for you, and you can use the chat function to share your answer, and then Melissa will moderate that. So whatever comes in, we'll try to answer them as best as we can. So the first question is, what is your biggest challenge in implementing circular plastic solutions? If you have already experienced that you can share. Let's give let's use 3 minutes, and then Melissa can provide us with feedback from the floor. Thank you. I was muted, sorry. Hey, Melissa. So any interesting challenges that were shared? What do you have for us?
All right, so we have 3 so far. The first one we have is financing. That's coming from Ms. Jeffers. I am not sure where Ms. Jeffers is from. Let me see if she wrote it in the chat. But from Ms. Jeffers, she's saying that financing is one of their biggest challenges. And then we have from Mr. Bento, who is from Antigua. Our biggest challenge is finding a suitable building to house the equipment we already have from the PWFI projects to convert plastic waste to sellable products. Ms. Jeffers is from Nevis. And then we have Denise. Not sure where Denise is from. Time to get it, I guess, to implement the project and execute the activities. So those were the 3 that we got towards that question.
Okay, thanks so much. Then let's go to the second question and then we can discuss them together. That is, what topics do you want more guidance on in terms of this particular grant? Let's look at those and then open up the floor for more like a plenary discussion. All right, Melissa, do we have any responses to that question?
Yes, we do. But before I jump to the question, to that question number 2, we had Nestor Noel, who in referencing the first question, the biggest challenge is that of financing and the ability to source the equipment or sanitization needed if we are to reuse. So that was related to question 1. Moving on to question 2, we have Ms. Edwin from St. Lucia. Challenges with circular economy is the implementation process, and then too many meetings and forums, talk shops, and limited meaningful action. So, jump from the meetings and the consultations and actually seeing some implementation taking place. Joshua Francis from Good Humans 268, that's from Antigua and Barbuda. What topics do you need more guidance on? Finance and legislation. I'm not sure if Joshua was responding to question 1 or if this is the question 2, but I think this is more related to question 1. Ms. Benta, Odaija Benta from EcoShore Sustainable Future Network indicated that there are limited challenges for them because they're a new organization, but they are having funding limitations to introduce their technical expertise. Joshua Net so for question 2 now for Joshua Net, strengthening the proposal and writing a good proposal. So those are some of the guidance she needs some guidance on. Yvonne, how to move from paper to practice, formulated policy, bill, strategy or action plan documents. Benta, cross-region knowledge sharing would be helpful across the IUCN regions, particularly on species and marine species. Mr. Bento from Antigua, he indicated we're now bailing pet and shipping to US and Honduras. Freight costs are high and make this difficult to sustain, especially with low density, which we can achieve in a 40-foot container with baled PET bottles. We need to find a more efficient way to export plastic bottles for recycling. So I guess those are some of the challenges. So I think for the question 2, we have strengthening the proposal or presenting a good proposal. And what is it? Where is it? Yeah, that's what we have. So I'm not sure if anybody else have any guidance topics that they would want guidance on. If you do, please just punch it in the chat so that we can have it recorded.
All right, thank you so much for that summary, and thanks for the questions, which make a lot of sense. And indeed, the implementation time frame is limited. It's 12 months. And the financing per project relative to maybe the project ideas that you have could be limited as well. But I think it's important to acknowledge that we're looking for scalable solutions. So don't start from scratch, indeed, because then the time is too limited. So go amplify or enhance something that already started. And I've heard some great examples already of work that has been started, where indeed, for example, the time for procuring equipment should be taken into consideration very seriously. So if that is the core of your project, make sure that you start with that really at the beginning, and so you can have that time basically to actually implement the activities. In terms of the sanitization of reuse, there are many responses to that. In a way, I think we fully understand that perspective and the need, and I think there are many great guidelines on that are also sector specific that could be shared. What is a very important element that we would also like to see as part of your proposal is if it is about sanitization, is how the behavioral change element are addressed as well. So how do you make sure that whether it's a perceived or real sanitization issue, that it is taken seriously, and that the user group that you're targeting is building, or you're helping to build the confidence of the user group basically with the tools that are available. And I think for that there will be also a help desk facility that relates maybe to that element in terms of tools. IUCN has a great repository under its Ubuntu platform of resources that are available that could help with elements of your work, both technically but also process-wise. And there will be a kind of a help desk facility. So if you have any questions about your proposal, then you can turn to the IUCN for any questions during or let's say before this, in the process of the application, during implementation as well. So that could help maybe with strengthening the proposal if you're not sure. And it's also a response to the technical expertise. There's quite a lot of expertise with IUCN. And again, in their Ubuntu platform and other platforms that they can refer to. Policy put policy into practice and less talk shops and more action. I fully support that, and I think that's also why now this grant program exists, so to really enable you to, to implement whatever actions you have in mind. I think it nicely builds on what has been developed under PUFI, and now, there is this space to put the policy into practice. In terms of the, the high bailing costs, the freight costs, sorry, it's a much heard challenge. For that, of course, to reduce that, a proper EPR system or container deposit fee structure should be established, where, of course, the handling fees for the recyclers, the export costs are included in the handling fees for recyclers. So that could definitely also be in scope of this grant program, that if they, if you want to consider efforts to enhance the CDS program to make sure that the economics work also for the recycler that exports overseas, that's a perfect project as well. And otherwise, processing on island would be, could be an option as well. I think those are the responses from my side, but I would love to invite Melissa as well to maybe share your perspective on some of these questions.
Okay, thanks, Rosemary. Oh, sorry, somebody got kicked out. All right. So the whole idea of the small grants program is to provide the opportunities for, as we mentioned earlier, the target groups, MSMEs, specifically women-led and youth-led initiatives, CSOs, to be able to get funding, because as a lot of persons mentioned here, and being a part of it and knowing and working within the NGO space, understanding that financing is a big hurdle for a lot of small grassroots association, but also understanding the challenges that these small grassroots association has in terms of the capacity to apply for these, for grants such as these and other grants, being able to put together a well-put-together proposal to even qualify to receive said grants. So we're hoping that this small grants, we will see the submissions and hopefully they'll be able to provide some funding. I am sure we Rosemary would have mentioned the budget size per proposal. So, I mean, in terms of financing, it may not address your big financial needs, but we're hoping that it addresses it fills some gap in your financial situation to be able to address the idea of plastic waste in the Caribbean. I know I saw someone, I think it's Brittany, who mentions that we have limits in limited plastic tracking, and not just in Antigua, but in the other islands, in the other small SIDS islands. So, there's a need for data, and it's not just data in plastic, but data in almost every sphere that we cover, everything. We have a data retention, collection problem, because we have different organizations working in the countries. They do collect data, but there's not a repository where those data is stored, so that if somebody comes along later down the line, they can access those data. And so we find that there's a lot of duplication in our SIDS islands, and that's where finances come in, and we're duplicating efforts that were made prior because we don't have the data documented somewhere, so somebody can come in and look at the gaps that we do have and address those gaps instead of redoing or duplicating something that was done already. So Brittany here says we have limited plastic tracking, and it's similar in the other countries. Assisting in data collection, research, and pilot programs would be useful. I mean, this is why the small grants is there, so somebody on the call could take up that initiative to put together a proposal that possibly can address, some of these gaps, and let's see what happens. She also mentioned, medical impact. We don't have this cross impact and health. We hoping through our partnership we can fill this gap. There you go. So like I said, hopefully, we're able to identify some of the gaps. Again, we had the PWFI initiatives where the person on the call who would have benefited from it, but then there's still a missing link where they can't continue from that. They can't expand on that because of limitations, whether it is finances, location, a building, the machinery that's needed to actually be impactful in what we're doing with what we're trying to do. So again, the grants, the small grants, it won't cover all your financial needs, but we're hoping that it can assist in making an impact on closing the plastic tap in the Caribbean and region.
Yeah, if I can add to that, Melissa, on that financing element, I flipped to the slide on previously asked questions, and we'll list them also as frequently asked questions as part of the RFP program. I think it's the 1, 2, 3, 5th question. We listed here some complementary programs, funding programs that you could link your activities to. Keep an eye on them, because sometimes there are plans of, for example, new windows if some already closed, but there are still open opportunities in this list as well. So keep an eye on those as well. So possibly that could help with your financing plan. I guess that's it from our end. If there's, let's give it like a last round of any last questions or remarks that you have, because we still have time.
Yes, so somebody is asking, will the recording be made available? Yes, this is why I asked everyone to share their contact information so that we'll be able to share the recording of today's webinar with you and any information on the small grants program once it's launched, so that you'll have first access to anything that comes out of this. So if you can, please share your information, your organization, your name, your country you're representing, and an email address, so that we'll be able to send you not only the recording, but any additional information on the grants program. Anyone has any additional questions? All right, Rosemary.
Sorry, I was just closing. Well, then, I would like to thank you all for participating in today's webinar, and please feel free to reach out to Melissa. If you have any questions, keep an eye out on the IUCN procurement website. The link is provided in the slide deck that can be shared afterwards. So by the end of February, the call for proposal will be sent out, and then your application process can start. And good luck with that. Hope to see many great applications in there. Have a nice day.
All right, thank you. All right, so I just wanted to thank everybody for their participation. We hope the webinar was helpful to clarify the objectives and requirements of the Small Grants Program, and how your initiatives can contribute to reducing plastic waste while delivering a meaningful and social and economic benefits in your communities. I would want to express our sincere appreciation to the government of Italy again, through the Italian Agency for Development Cooperation, for their continued support. We encourage you to reflect on the guidance shared today and begin shaping your project ideas. Please remember that our team remains available to provide support as the call for proposal is formally launched. My contact information is listed on the slide there. Thank you very much and have a good day. Thank you.